Hi, it's Friday, September the 29th, and I continue to read and wonder my way through Paul's letter to the churches in Galatia. In fact, I'm going to complete that letter today. We're reading chapter 6, verses 11 to 18. That will end Paul's letter. And basically wrap up a letter that's been all about grace versus law. Being righteous, being in the best relationship with God, whether that comes through Jesus Christ alone, or whether that can be improved or even replaced by adherence to the law. So for Paul, that would mean the Jewish traditions, circumcision and kosher laws and all the mitzvahs, all of the rules and regulations that come from the law of Moses. And spoiler alert, Paul feels strongly that it's by grace. And he starts off the letter, I think, by suggesting that the law becomes redundant once we have Jesus. But by the end of the letter, he seems to be suggesting that the law actually inhibits that grace. That you have to choose. You can't have both. You have to choose one or the other. And anyway, that's sort of the letter we've been through, and it's been, I found, intriguing at times. It's certainly made me wonder. Yesterday, Paul started to wrap up the letter with a softer tone about being kind to each other and to gently help those who transgress, who fall from the path, who once believed as we did, or have come out, have left the community, but gently invite them back. And I wondered about the gentleness of all of that. I also wondered whether Paul was preaching to the churches in Galatia or preaching to himself at that moment in the letter. Anyway. So all that's left now is just basically his signature, as it were. So that's what we're going to read right now. Galatians 6, 11 to 18. See what large letters I make when I'm writing in my own hand. It is those who want to make a good showing in the flesh that try to compel you to be circumcised, only that they might be not persecuted for the cross of Christ. Even the circumcised do not themselves obey the law, but they want you to be circumcised so that they may boast about your flesh. May I never boast of anything except the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, by which the world has been crucified to me and I to the world. For neither circumcision nor uncircumcision is anything, but a new creation is everything. As for those who will follow this rule, peace be upon them and mercy and upon the Israel of God. From now on, let no one make trouble for me, for I carry the marks of Jesus branded on my body. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with your spirit, brothers and sisters. Amen. So there we go. Paul wraps up his letter. I perhaps a little overly dramatically paused and wondered, but I do think that Paul is wondering. I mean, it's silly to say because, Paul has dictated this letter and now is signing the last little bit of it to prove that it's his letter. That was the tradition. So Paul would have dictated to a scribe and then would have, at the end said, and by the way, my scribe, Bob, did this. So he's there. See what large letters I make when I'm writing in my own hand. So, and I mentioned this earlier in the letter. So this is an edited document. Paul has thought about this. And so my sort of dramatic pauses and my curiosity are not appropriate, perhaps, except that I think Paul wants those in there. I think, Paul's written a letter, and he's, as I said yesterday, he's sort of gotten a head of steam up by the end of the letter going, no, you can't follow those people. And then he backed up, no, we have to gently be with each other. And now as he finishes up, so he's okay, let's be gentle, but he still wants to make sure his point's there. And even he understands that it's a tricky point to make for people who are living in a faith that has sprung from the Jewish faith, right? Has sprung from it. It has begun, and many people feel at this point should remain a reformation of the Jewish faith, not a breakaway from, but a reformation of. It's going to reshape the Jewish faith, revitalize it. So it's hard to say to those people, you know what? Never mind this whole circumcision thing. Never mind the whole Jewish faith. It's hard, and Paul himself was raised that way, and And that life served him well. I think if you'd asked Paul, 3 years before he wrote this letter, how's the faith working for you? He'd have told he was faithful and glad to live that faithful life. So I think he appreciates the struggle. But I think he also wants people to understand that this is not just a theological thing for him. It's not just that these people from Jerusalem, the ones who want the Galatian churches to be more Jewish in their practice, it's not just a difference of theology, where Paul sees righteousness through grace, through Jesus, and they see righteousness through observance of the law or works righteousness. He's saying that's not just that. It's in fact the fact that they are manipulating you, and he's trying to say that in the light of having said we need to be gentle with each other. But that's what I hear him saying. It's those who want to make a good showing in the flesh that try to compel you to be circumcised. Meaning they want you to be circumcised to make themselves feel better about their faith. That's how that sounds to me. They get their reward, as it were, by getting you to believe as they do. If they can convince you, then they're proud in that. But Paul says that shouldn't be a compelling reason for you to change your mind, because they're not really interested in you. They're interested in themselves. And I think that those are interesting words and a compelling insight in the time and place where I live, where people of various faith groups, but I'll focus particularly on Christians. I know them best. Will often try to get people to join, to get on the salvation boat, get on the same path. Come on, join us. Join us. Join us sometimes is said by a faith group because we want your money, frankly. We want your financial support. Join us. Bring us your money. I had reflected a couple of days ago about, whether having more Christians than another group means Christianity is more successful. Is success measured in numbers? And for some it is. And I think that Paul is suggesting that these people, this group from Jerusalem, they're trying to build up numbers to make themselves feel better, whether that's to enrich their coffers, to make money, or whether it's because they themselves have doubts about their faith. And rather than confronting their doubts, they just try to get more people on board because, gosh, if I can convince you, in a weird way, I'm going to be convincing myself. I'll put my doubts aside as I experience your zeal, right? That's true now. I see people do that. Now they want you to join their church. They want you to make the same confession they've made. And I know some of these people, it's like, yeah, you're saying that because you're hiding your doubt. You really are hiding your doubt. Or the other part, which would be even more of an issue, I think, for Paul, is you want to be appreciated more by your community and by God. If Norm's the guy that just got 17 converts last month, oh man, he's the guy. Isn't he great? And we're going to celebrate Norm in the church because he converted 17 people. That's amazing. Oh my God. God must just flow through him. The Spirit. Oh, it's incredible. And then underneath that is like, God must love Norm way more than Phil. Phil only got 2 converts. And Jack got none. Norm got 17. Well, we know who's going into heaven first. That's works righteousness. Getting some kind of reward for bringing people over to the faith. And that would have been a tricky thing for Paul to witness. And it is a peculiar thing for first century Jews. I mean, Judaism is not a converting faith. They don't go out proselytizing. They don't go out knocking on people's doors. But it seems to me that Paul is suggesting here maybe they do. Now, maybe I am mishearing it, but I'm taking these words and applying it to where I live, right? So even if that's not what Paul means, I can still hear God speaking to me in this. And it is about how and why I share my faith. Do I share my faith with others because of my doubt? Do I share my faith with others because I want to get them on the team and be admired for it? It's a tricky thing for professional faith leaders. Because if we don't get people on the team, then nobody shows up on game day, and then we don't have a job. Right? For faith leaders, how often are we focused on the ministry as opposed to the means to the ministry? If I have more people in my church, we have more means to live out the ministry. But I can focus so much on getting the bums in seats or raising the money from the people that I can lose sight of the ministry. If the ministry succeeds, if the ministry is to share the love of God, if the ministry is to heal the broken, and it costs me my career or my church, if it costs me my job, would I be satisfied with that? Or am I always going to try to figure out a way that I can also keep my job and help my church grow so that it will keep me employed longer? Guarantee my future, as it were. I want to say, no, it's all ministry focused. But when I read this letter and the way that Paul signs off, and I think about that faction from Jerusalem, I think some of them really were focused on sharing their perspective and their way of faith. I think that they really did believe that they were helping Galatians have a fuller, better faith. But I also think within that group there were those who were doing it because they wanted to win. I think there were those who were doing it because they wanted to be admired for their ability to solve a problem or bring people onto the salvation boat, get them along the path. If we're all walking together, we must be going the right way. But in fact, going the right way isn't really going to be judged by how many people on the path. It's going to be judged on what God is asking of me, of you, of anybody on that path. And it's hard sometimes to figure that out. And I think Paul gets that. And Paul's wandering into that. And Paul's saying that as he closes the letter. He's recognizing, these people, for neither circumcision nor uncircumcision is anything, is what he's saying. But a new creation is everything. All the stuff I'm talking about, he says, my argument with these people, none of that really matters. That's, to me, what he's saying there. Circumcision or uncircumcision, their side or my side, that's not what matters. What matters is a new creation. And that, for me, is the thing about faith, too. Circumcised, uncircumcised, join my church, don't join my church. Have I been part of anything that has helped you become new? Even if you don't use the language I use. Have you become new? Even if you don't say that it's in Christ the way I would say it. Has anything I've done or we have done as a community, has it helped you become new? Recognizing that you only become new if you want to, right? So am I devoted to your wholeness and healing, or anybody's wholeness and healing, or am I devoted to the institution? Paul, at this point, is breaking himself from that institution. Neither circumcision nor uncircumcision is anything. The new creation is everything. For those who follow this rule, peace be upon them, and mercy upon the Israel of God. In the end, we want peace. We want mercy. We want to value our relationship with God, not just our ancestry. At least that's what I pick up on the Israel of God. It doesn't say upon Israel. It says on the Israel of God. And he has said a couple times in this letter that those who have come to experience God through direct revelation, like through Jesus, are descendants of Abraham. That's Israel. That's the Israel of God. Whether your family line can be traced to Jacob or not, your faith can be connected to God, and that's what's important. That's what he's saying. Is your faith as important to me as my institution? Will my institution, the way that I practice my faith, will I be happy if it helps you in your faith, even if you don't join my team? It's a fair question. And I don't know if Paul even actually wants to ask that question, but I think Paul knows that he needs to ask that question. And I think he needs to ask that question of himself regularly. I know I have to ask myself that question every day. And I think any of us who want to share our faith and sort of live faithfully have to ask ourselves, why exactly are we doing this? If I help you and you don't join my team, is that a failure or a success? But as he tries to figure it out, I love his sign off. From now on, let no one make trouble for me, for I carry the marks of Jesus branded on my body. I've heard people quote that like, yeah, don't mess with me, buddy. I got Jesus and we'll knock you down. I hear those words and I hear, you know what, nobody can hurt me. It's okay. Because I am with Jesus. I am crucified with Jesus and I am crucified to the world crucified to me. We've been through the worst together. We are always going to be together, so nobody can actually hurt me. From now on, let nobody make trouble for me. I carry the marks of Jesus branded on my body. I'm okay. If I were with Paul suggesting an edit, I would have Paul say something that I have said very many times to a lot of people. Nobody can take your God away from you. Nobody can take your faith away from you. So don't worry about that. Share and let them grow in faith. And maybe you end up on the same path. Maybe you end up in the same boat. But maybe you don't, and that's okay. It will not diminish your relationship with God. It will not hurt your relationship with God to help somebody who doesn't join your team. And I think that's all I've got for the moment. I think I'm going to let it go right there and leave it with you. This is a short day. Wow, imagine that. So I'm going to offer a prayer, and then I'm pretty sure come Monday I'm going to just roll into Ephesians. Why not? Let's read another one of Paul's letters. Kind of having fun with this one, and Ephesians could be even more fun, right? So for now, though, let me offer a prayer. Let us pray. Loving God, thank you for Paul's words. Thank you for Paul's faith. Thank you especially for Paul's humanity as he tries to understand his faith. Faith that he feels and experiences but has yet to find the perfect words. God, as we engage with Paul's struggle and admire his words of faith, may our wondering help us grow in our own faith. May our wondering help us hear your word. Upon hearing it, God, may we follow it. We pray in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, through the Holy Spirit. Amen. And that's enough for me today. So I look forward to seeing you on Monday. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. And until I get to see you, God bless you. Please know that God sees you and knows you as you are, where you are, and loves you exactly that way. And God's love not only surrounds you, but God's love moves through you and out into the world in ways that can only happen because of you. You matter. The love you share is not just yours, it's God's. You make a difference in the world. So thank you for being you. God bless you. See you Monday.